Over the past few days, we've seen a significant amount of actually liquid water on the surface that have both accumulated in small ponds and probably approaching the size of lakes, especially near the edge of the ice sheet. An interesting thing is that the melt season actually in Greenland started pretty much end of April, beginning of May, which in the grand scheme of things is very close to a month earlier than average.
My name is Brooke Medley. I'm the Deputy Project Scientist for Operation IceBridge. Last April and May, we were actually flying in Greenland out of Kangerlussuaq on the NASA P3. This was somewhat of a unique year where we expected to be going early enough where we would see the typical dry snow conditions, but rather we were met with a much different scenario where we saw all these spectacular blue ponds of beautiful liquid water just pooling on top of the surface.
The ice sheet is actually experiencing almost an additional month of melt because it started so early here. Part of it is actually driven by the fact that it's very warm right now, but also that there was not a lot of snowfall last winter. And so what that means is when the snow does melt, it very quickly exposes darker ice, which can then melt even faster. It went from pretty much frozen over at the surface just before the melt started to completely unfrozen, and the rivers have risen, and there's just a significant increase in the total amount of water that we just see in general.
Over the course of 2019, there was so much melt that it actually ended up being the second largest meltwater production year for the Greenland ice sheet since 1980. What does it mean for 2020 is an excellent question. So what happens when you have an extreme melt year is that it can often impact a subsequent season. So it's definitely something we were looking for coming into the 2020 season is, are we going to be seeing another 2019 because we've preconditioned the ice sheet to be more susceptible to melt? And interestingly, right now, 2020 is trending along a more normal trajectory for melt. That being said, this is still just July, and the biggest pulse of meltwater from 2019 actually occurred at the end of July and beginning of August. So there's still a lot of melt season left to go. It's actually quite simple. The longer your melt season, that means you can just have more time to accumulate more melt. And the only place for this water to go is into the ocean. So it will be driving sea level rise. And Greenland is currently, outside of the thermal expansion of the ocean, is the largest contributor to global sea level rise.